Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETA Prime back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new 2024 Gigabyte G6X gaming laptop. I've actually had this for a couple weeks, been using the heck out of it, and really enjoy the overall form factor and performance this thing's putting out. It's not a super budget gaming laptop, but it isn't coming in at the high-end tier either. This is right there in the mid-range, and it does offer some amazing performance for what we have here. Straight off the bat, first thing I noticed was the weight on this. It is a bit heavier than some of the other laptops that we've tested, but the cooling system in here is all new from Gigabyte, and I was really surprised to take a look at it. It's an all-copper cooling system, and we will dive in a bit deeper. I'll take the bottom off so we can get a better look at everything. And yeah, that new cooling system does an amazing job for the hardware we have packed in here. And this is coming in with a 16-inch display since we've got the G6X. Four-sided slim bezels, 90% screen-to-body ratio, so it does really fill up this 16-inch platform. Looks really nice if you ask me. And we're not working with a super high resolution. This is actually coming in at 1200p up to 165 Hz. And I personally like having kind of a 1080p or a 1200p display. That way we can get really great performance out of what we got. And then when we want to up that resolution, we can always plug this into a larger, higher resolution display. Single zone, fully backlit keyboard. It is adjustable from software, and we'll dive in a bit to their control center in just a second. But yeah, those slim bezels really do make this screen kind of pop. We've just got a lot of room up there to work with. Gigabyte is offering the G6X in a couple different variants, but what we've got 8 efficiency cores up to 3.6 GHz. So all in all, we're working with 14 cores and 20 threads. We've also got the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4060 laptop variant with 8 GB of GDDR6 VRAM. This will do up to 105 watts, so we do get that higher clock on this. Over on their website, they state that the boost clock is up to 2,370 MHz depending on what you're doing, but I've actually seen this boost up to 27 while gaming. We've got that 16-inch, 165 Hz, 16:10 aspect ratio display with a resolution of 1920 by 1200. It's only 45% NTSC. I wish color grading was a bit better, but we also have that MUX switch. We can do up to 64 GB of DDR5 at 4800 MHz, running in dual channel. This one happens to have 32 gigs right out of the box. It supports 2 M.2 SSDs, Gen 4 NVMe's, so we can add a ton of storage to this, up to 4 TB each, 2 2-watt speakers with Dolby Atmos, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, a 73 watt-hour battery, and this does come with a 180 watt power supply, and we'll be running Windows 11 on this machine today. When it comes to I/O on the new G6X, over here on the left-hand side, we've got one full-size USB 3.2 Gen 1 port and a 3.5mm combo jack, so we can plug our headphones in or a microphone. Over on the right-hand side, we've got a USB Type-C port, and this is USB 3.2 Gen 2, power delivery 3.0, so we can charge our devices from this pretty quickly. We've also got another full-size USB 3.2 port, but this one is Gen 2 over here, and of course a port 1.4, so we can do 2 displays out of this unit. Now, one thing you may have noticed by taking a look at all of this is there's a lot of copper we can see internally, and usually when we see this, it's just the fin array being made of copper, but pulling the bottom off, I was really surprised to see all of this. The whole cooling system here is copper, and it does stay pretty nice and chilly. So we've got a pretty powerful CPU here. It'll boost up to 100 watts. That RTX 4060, even though it's a laptop variant, does up to 105 watts. And so far, this whole system has been doing an amazing job. Now, this one came with 32 gigs of RAM, DDR5, 4800 megatransfers per second, running in dual channel. You can upgrade this to 64. Plus, we've got that extra NVMe slot. It's a Gen 4 NVMe. This one came with a single 1 TB, but we can do some storage upgrades here, RAM upgrades, and that's about it. But that's really all you can ask for out of a laptop nowadays. At least all of this is replaceable. So yeah, overall design, basic notebook, basic laptop, coming in a bit thicker than some of the higher-end gaming laptops on the market, but you know, I wasn't expecting a super thin design. It's not an Ultrabook. I do like this trackpad here, but I wish it was a glass trackpad. Seems to be plastic to me. I mean, it does work good enough. I just like the feel of a glass. Keyboard, pretty responsive. Plus, we've got that single zone RGB that we can swap around from software. And speaking of tuning software, we do have the Gigabyte Control Center built in here, and this is going to allow us to kind of adjust mostly everything on this laptop. Really easy to get into. We've got a few performance modes that we can use. And over from the left-hand side, You can go through, adjust that backlight. Remember, it's only a single zone. We're not going to get different colors at different sections. But usually when it comes to laptops, at least for me, I need at least a light. We can go ahead and dim this down if we want to. It just comes in really handy. You can also set up a macro from the Gigabyte Control Center. And when it comes to overall performance and quiet, obviously in performance mode, we're going to get the best we can out of this machine. Quiet mode is great for document editing, email checking, just browsing the web in general, and even video playback. Going to get the most battery life out of it. Plus, we can fully control that fan. We do have a custom mode down here. Mainly, through all of my testing, I've left this in performance mode and the fan in turbo mode. So that fan does spin up a bit higher than it would if you were in kind of auto mode, but it's going to keep everything nice and cool, allowing the CPU and GPU to boost up a bit higher. Then of performance, the first thing I wanted to show off were some benchmarks that I ran on the G6X. Here we have Geekbench 6 coming in with a single core of 2,454. Multi looking really great here at a 13,415. I mean, we've got plenty of power here when it comes to the CPU side of things, so let's check out this GPU. And for that, we're using 3D Mark. Firestrike coming in with a 25,304. And of course, we do have an RTX GPU. It's not the most powerful RTX in the market, but I did want to test out some ray tracing capabilities. So I used 3D Mark Port Royal. Total score here, 6,094, and remember, we're in performance mode and turbo mode for the fan. And finally, Time Spy with a pretty impressive 11,107. Not too bad with these synthetics, but now we gotta check out some real-world gaming. And the first one we have here is Helldivers 2 1080p Ultra with DLSS set to balance. Remember, at high 1080p with this RTX 4060, you won't need DLSS, but at Ultra, I did need to add a little bit. Personally, it's really hard for me to tell on a 1080p display that I've got any DLSS enabled, and we got an average of 72 FPS. Moving over to a newer one, we've got Horizon Forbidden West 1080p high with DLSS set to balance. Another thing we have here with this generation, with that turned on, same settings here, we can get an average of around 120 FPS. With it off, we're getting an average of around 87. Still very playable, and I've been playing through this game on this laptop here, kind of pretty far through the game itself. I've had a really great time with this one. I didn't think we'd have an issue with this. We're getting an average of around 97 FPS, and it's not a super hard game to run as long as you've got an NVIDIA card, but cards with this game. I personally don't play Fortnite, but I wanted to throw it in here. 1080p, doing a great job. We were over 60, but it was kind of right on the edge. Not exactly sure if I should go through and try to swap between DX11, DX12, but either way, high still looks good. Next up, we've got the built-in benchmark for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, 1080p, Ultra, DLSS set to quality. Not too bad. And of course, with these esport games at 1080p, we can run anything over 60. And finally, we've got Forza Motorsports 1080p Ultra. I'm getting an average of around 102 FPS. Now, I will say, I think they've done a pretty good job getting optimizations out of the way when it comes to the developers and NVIDIA. I wasn't seeing good performance on basically anything. I was very excited about the game, got kind of let down there, but I think they're doing a good job now. So overall, I've been really enjoying using the new 2024 Gigabyte G6X, but there are a few things I'd like to see changed here. Like having that trackpad have a glass cover over for something like this. It gets you by, it's not completely horrible, but it would have been really nice just to have those colors pop a bit better with this screen. I've been able to throw all of my favorite AAA games at this at 1080p with no problems whatsoever. Now if you want to see some games running on this at higher resolutions, just let me know in the comments below. Personally, when I have a laptop, my main laptop, I usually plug it into a larger display when I'm at home, play some games. Going up to 1440p would be nice, but we've only got that RTX 4060. We're definitely going to need some frame generation and DLSS, but I think it could be done with a lot of this stuff. So if that's something you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below, but that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you're interested in learning a little more about the 2024 Gigabyte G6X, I'll leave some links in the description. And like always, thanks for watching.